my brilliant cosmic particles, ready to break a few laws of physics today. There you are! I was just recalibrating the multiverse, tweaking the very fabric of possibility. Come in! Come in! Welcome to the Science Agency, where curiosity isn't just encouraged, it is the tomfuel that powers our adventure through the cosmos of knowledge. They say reality is serious business, but I say it is just the most exciting experiment. Today, we're embarking on an incredible journey, a thought experiment that will challenge everything you know. Today, we're firing up our improbability engine and plugging in a truly bizarre variable. What if humanity still bartered? A quantum thought experiment that will make your neurons dance. Fasten your neural seatbelts. This is going to be a mind-blowing ride. Phase 1. In our universe, money is the magic wand that makes everything easier. Trade, commerce, even convincing your neighbor to stop playing bagpipes at 3 a.m. But just imagine if, just for a wild, chaotic moment, humans decided to ditch the shiny paper and coins and instead went back to the good old-fashioned barter system. Yes, immediate face to face you, scratch my back, and I'll plant your flower bed kind of trade. No middlemen, no digital wallets, just raw, real-time negotiations with your neighbor over a dozen eggs for a single loaf of bread. And oh, the sights and sounds! The clattering of pots and pans, the smell of fresh bread, the awkward eye contact as you try to trade your slightly bruised apple for someone's hand-knit sweater. This world is a sensory overload. Every transaction feels like a mini drama, a performance where trust and reputation are the currency. And that's where it gets insane. Because if you mess up, if you cheat, or forget your promise word, spreads faster than a wildfire in a dry forest. Your social credit isn't just about reputation anymore, it's about immediate reciprocity. What you give is what you get right here, right now. No delay, no digital safety nets. You're in a constant state of negotiation, and social bonds are woven tighter than a spider's web. And that changes everything. That's just one of the consequences. What other absurd chain reaction can you think of? Write it down in the comments. My quantum toaster needs new ideas. Phase 2. Imagine a world where currency has vanished into the ether, like a magician's puff of smoke. Instead of cash, people rely on intricate webs of reputation and barter networks, like an enormous, chaotic spider web spun from human trust. And just picture this. Every handshake, every favor, every shared secret becomes a shiny coin in the grand economy of social standing. You walk into a marketplace, not hearing the clink of coins, but instead hearing the hum of whispered reputation scores and the rustle of barter agreements being exchanged like secret scrolls. The air is thick with anticipation because your worth isn't measured by your wallet, but by your word, your history of kindness, loyalty, or downright cunning. And that changes everything. In this society, a handshake can mean more than a contract, and a smile can be worth $1,000 or a lifetime of social favor. Personal relationships become the skyscrapers of influence, towering over the crumbling ruins of monetary power. The more trusted you are, the more you can trade, be it goods, services, or even the right to borrow a neighbor's stubborn goat for a week. Trustworthiness isn't just a virtue, it's the ultimate currency, shaping social hierarchies and alliances. And here's the kicker. Social bonds are now the backbone of the economy, with kinship ties as the fancy, high-interest loans of this chaotic universe. That's just one of the consequences. What other absurd chain reaction can you think of? Write it down in the comments. My quantum toaster needs new ideas. Phase 3. Welcome to the wild, chaotic bazaar of Barter World. Imagine a universe where the gleaming chains of currency vanish like a mirage, and instead, you're stuck in a sprawling, hyper-local jungle of exchanges. Here, specialization gets tangled like a spaghetti monster of trades. One farmer's wheat for a tailor's thread, a blacksmith's axe for a baker's loaf, and oh, the symphony of sounds! The clink of stones, the squeak of wooden carts, the shouting of traders bargaining with frantic enthusiasm. It's a cacophony of human ingenuity, all humming in this decentralized patchwork economy. No global markets, no central bank, just a chaotic mosaic of barter hubs, each with its own quirks, its own values, and its own rules. You walk into a busy market square, perhaps in a tiny village, where everyone knows everyone, and their goods are as precious as gold, but only within that local universe. And this is where it gets interesting. Because with no universal currency, trust and social bonds become everything. Your reputation is your credit, and a mistrade or an unfair deal can ripple through the entire community like a stone tossed into a pond. It's a world where the value of a cow or a spoon is meticulously debated, weighed, and negotiated. Much, much stranger than we imagined. And that changes everything. So, what happens when these barter hubs become the entire economy? Just imagine the wild, buzzing chaos, the alliances, the betrayals, the local legends, born from a simple trade gone wrong. That's just one of the consequences. What other absurd chain reaction can you think of? Write it down in the comments. My quantum toaster needs new ideas. Phase 4. Welcome to the wild, chaotic carnival of resource management in this barter-only universe. Just imagine, without a universal currency, every single item becomes a tiny treasure prize fought over and fiercely defended. Instead of coins jingling in pockets, you've got raw materials, grain, cloth, shiny stones bouncing around in the marketplace like hyperactive squirrels on caffeine. And here's where it gets insanely fascinating, because without a standard unit of exchange, communities have to get creative. They develop elaborate systems, barter schedules that resemble intricate dance routines where timing is everything. Miss a beat, and your neighbor might trade you a goat for a handful of herbs when all you wanted was a loaf of bread. And then there are the symbolic trade tokens, little carved objects, painted shells, or even strange glowing crystals that act as proxy currencies. These tokens aren't just trade aids, they're status symbols, cultural icons, and sometimes secret messages. You can hear the shuffle of goods, the clink of tokens, and the enthusiastic bargaining that sounds like a chaotic symphony of human ingenuity. Storage and transportation become a game of strategic genius. Imagine tiny carts, underground vaults, and even makeshift vaults carved into mountains. This system transforms society. Planning for the future is now a puzzle of preserving perishables, scheduling exchanges, and maintaining trust. Much, much stranger, right? And that changes everything. Now, just think. What if this resource dance spirals into a new kind of conflict or cooperation? That's just one of the consequences. What other absurd chain reaction can you think of? Write it down in the comments. My quantum toaster needs new ideas. Phase 5, much, much stranger. Just imagine a world where money, as we know it, has vanished into the ether. No more bills, no more coins, clinking like tiny metallic rain. Just pure, chaotic barter. And what takes its place? Oh, you're in for a wild ride. Instead of currency, humanity develops dazzling digital catalogs. Think of them as shimmering, neon-lit directories that list every conceivable item, service, or favor, all sortable by trustworthiness and reputation scores. These aren't your grandma's paper catalogs. They're dynamic, glowing, and alive, constantly updating based on your dealings, your honesty, your ability to deliver on promises. And then trade matching platforms. Imagine giant virtual marketplaces buzzing with holographic negotiations where you can see, hear, and even smell the anticipation of barter. Oh yes, smell! You might trade your vintage robot vacuum for a lifetime supply of organic unicorn feed, because in this universe, absurdity is currency. And here's the kicker: symbolic exchange tokens, digital, shiny, and often bizarre. Maybe a glittering emoji that signifies trustworthiness, or a virtual handshake that seals a deal with a satisfying click. Trust becomes the new gold, more valuable than any physical treasure, more fragile than a soap bubble in a hurricane. And that changes everything. Society transforms into an intricate dance of reputation, direct negotiation, and trust, like an elaborate game of cosmic poker, where winning depends on your credibility rather than your wallet. That's just one of the consequences. What other absurd chain reaction can you think of? Write it down in the comments. My quantum toaster needs new ideas. Phase 6. Welcome to the wild, chaotic carnival of cultural values that would explode into existence when humanity stops hoarding shiny objects and starts trusting each other instead. Just imagine a world where trustworthiness and community bonds are the hottest commodities, more valuable than gold, diamonds, or even that weird collectible spoon you keep hiding in your sock drawer. Here, societies don't rely on banknotes or digital blips. No, people trade with nods, words, and the magical power of reputation. Can you hear it? The lively hum of barter market sellers shouting, "I'll swap you my handcrafted spear for your basket of wild berries." And everyone knows each other's stories, their histories woven into the fabric of daily life. Social rituals become elaborate dances around communal fires, where reciprocal exchanges cement bonds tighter than a steel trap. Instead of lonely, individual pursuits, communities become tightly knit, like a giant, chaotic family reunion that's been going on for centuries. And oh, the sights! People wearing handmade clothes patched with memories, their faces glowing with genuine smiles, not because they're pretending, but because they trust. It's a sensory overload of sounds, sights, and feelings, all fueled by the raw power of trust and shared purpose. And this, my friends, that changes everything. Society becomes a living, breathing organism driven not by greed, but by mutual dependence. That's just one of the consequences. What other absurd chain reaction can you think of? Write it down in the comments. My quantum toaster needs new ideas. Phase 7. Welcome to the wild, chaotic carnival of political power in this barter-only universe. Imagine a sprawling mosaic of tiny kingdoms, each one a glittering mosaic tile, shimmering with barter tokens, shiny trinkets, and whispered reputations. Here, the throne isn't built on gold or laws. Nope, it's built on who's got the juiciest reputation and the most dazzling collection of rare feathers or enchanted stones. You see, in this universe, control over resources is like holding a golden ticket to the greatest party in town, except the party is a wild, unpredictable dance where alliances shift faster than a squirrel on a caffeine high. And that's where it gets fascinating. Instead of a centralized government, you have a patchwork quilt of local councils, each with its own rules, rituals, and reputation judges. It's a chaotic symphony of social jurisdictions, each one vying for dominance while trading favors, gossip, and shiny trinkets. Imagine the sounds, clattering barter exchanges, the gossiping whispers of reputations passing from mouth to ear, and the distant, echoing drums of shifting alliances. The air is thick with suspicion, celebration, and the scent of freshly traded goods. And just imagine the absurdity power is less about laws and more about who can spin the most convincing tale or rack up the most shiny tokens of trust. And that changes everything. Much, much stranger than a monarchy or democracy. This is a world where reputation reigns supreme and chaos is king. That is just one of the consequences. What other absurd chain reactions can you think of? Write it down in the comments. My quantum toaster needs new ideas. Phase 8. Welcome, adventurers of the crazy cosmos. Just imagine a world where human evolution is no longer about brain size or physical strength, but about something much, much stranger: your ability to connect, trust, and remember. Picture this. Society has transformed into this sprawling, humming hive of personal relationships, where your reputation is the shiny coin that buys you everything from a loaf of bread to a spaceship ride. Every encounter, every handshake, every shared secret is a currency more valuable than gold. Trust is king, and betrayal is the ultimate currency, devalued overnight. And this is where it gets interesting. You walk down streets alive with chatter, laughter, and the faint hum of holographic reputation scores floating above heads like neon fireflies. Instead of abstracted algorithms or faceless institutions, people literally carry their social credit in their minds and hearts. When you're trusted, you get the VIP treatment, shorter lines, better deals, and secret recipes for galactic smoothies. But beware, a single slip, a hint of dishonesty, and your reputation plummets faster than a rocket with a broken thruster. You can feel it, eyes watching, ears listening, the weight of your word pressing down like a cosmic boulder. And that changes everything. Humanity now navigates the universe with a web of personal bonds tighter than Spider-Man's web-slinging suit. Trust isn't just fragile, it's the backbone of civilization. Much, much stranger, huh? That's just one of the consequences. What other absurd chain reaction can you think of? Write it down in the comments. My quantum toaster needs new ideas.